To another episode of Gmod Add-ons. This time we are in the last section of the Simfizz cars we have to do. It's the GTA 5 section. So surprisingly, it's not quite as laggy as some of the others have been, but that is exchanged with the fact that most of these cars don't have textures, which could be a fault on my end, but it could also be a fault on the mod's end. I don't know. I didn't look at the mods. So we have looked at some GTA 5 cars before, but this has a bunch more of the cars that we haven't seen before, but also some of the returning ones, as you can see by this one. So first we have the Banshee, which is quite like a Dodge Viper, and of course, yeah. So they all work, but they just don't have textures. And of course, if you want to try to drive like this, you really couldn't see in it. And apparently, I'm also holding my gravity gun inside of it. Whatever. Or this is the physics gun. Duh. So we have another one we've looked at before, or we have one that we've looked. Oh no, we haven't looked at this one before. This is the Blade, which I don't exactly know what this is. Probably a lot of these are also kind of stuck a little bit in the map, but that's possibly also my fault. So we're starting from this end because some of the cars, which is everything except for the digger cars, have forced me to be on the side of the car when spawning them, whereas with the digger cars and the S cars, you can spawn them from the front. Or you spawn them and they go in front of you, so it makes it slightly easier. But the vehicles and everything else in Simfizz will be me having to spawn it from the side in order to make it line up like this. But it's not too big of a deal, it's just we have to do it a slightly different way than I would normally be used to. So here we have the Coil Brawler, which we've looked at before, and it actually has a texture, which is really nice. And of course some of these have textures, but most of them don't, which kind of sucks. But you know, it's the Coil Brawler, really. We have another one that has a texture, and we've looked at before, the Buccaneer. You know, it's that kind of like classic sort of really stupidly long car thing, which, you know, I'm not really a fan of. Here we have the Cheetah, which, you know, another one that we've looked at before, one of these supercars from before. One of the sort of more common cars that you'd see being raced around in GTA 5. Here we have the Comet, which is, you know, another one with a texture, but we have looked at this one before. It was the sort of Porsche look-alike that we saw in the other ones. This one we haven't looked at before, the Deluxo. But oh wait, this one I think this exact thing, or something very much like it, was in the Vice City section, but it was not in the GTA 5 section. And, you know, it's not too good, not too bad. Of course, missing textures doesn't really help me, but, you know. Here we have the Dominator, which, sort of like a Mustang. Yeah, that's definitely a lot like a Ford Mustang. It's pretty good. Oh, we're crashing and everything, which doesn't really help. Well, I mean, you know, if it had a texture, again, it would be so much better. Here we have the Drift Tampa, which is another car called the Tampa. This is apparently the Drift version, which I'm not really surprised. It would be just because of the look of it. And it does, I mean, it's, I don't know. I feel like this game is not really the best way to show off how well something drifts, but yeah. We have here the Elegy, which, you know, you can see what it looks like. It's not too bad. It's sort of like one of the main sort of sports cars in the game. Here we have the Faction. The Faction. You know, it's another one of those sort of classic designs with like the full window and like the half window and then like the sort of like other part on it. I mean, you can't really see it, but you know, you can kind of see the side of it. You can see what cars it sort of looks like. We have another version of the Faction, which again, like the Drift Tampa, results mostly from you being able to really mod a bunch of cars in GTA 5. The Donk version, which, you know, is just the stupidly huge wheels on cars that don't that really shouldn't have stupidly huge wheels, and it does make them generally more difficult to drive, but, you know, I mean, they certainly look weird. They'll get people to stare at your car. Now, here's another one we looked at in the before section, the Frankenstange. Oh boy, whatever. You know, it's kind of dumb, kind of like whatever. I don't really like that type of thing, but you know, you can have your opinions. We have the hot knife, which, yeah, this is, I mean, it's relatively kind of good, but still not the greatest. This one, I believe, is another one looked at before. Okay, well, it was one that we looked at in the Vice City mod. This is the Infernus, which, you know, sort of like a, okay. Sort of like a classic Lamborghini, but also has the sort of Pagani-like back end on it, so, okay, whatever. Next we have the Jester, which is another one we haven't looked at, but it sort of looks like a modern, like NSX to me, in a way, yeah. You can, I think you can probably sort of see that, just the wheels are a little bit bigger and it's a little bit higher off the ground. Here we have the Lurcher, which is very interesting name for what looks like a hearse, but it's also quite a bit longer than most hearses would be. So yeah, that's there. We have the Nightshade, which sort of like a sort of classic retro-ish Camaro type thing, but you know, of course you can't see it. Here's one that we can see, the Panto. Everybody's favorite tiny car in the game. This one has a really unnecessary spoiler. It looks to be a roof rack, which is really not something that this thing should have. But you know, it's the Panto, and you probably know enough about that one. This is the Phoenix, which I believe is another one that was in Vice City, but wasn't, or in the Vice City mod, but not in the GTA 5 one. You know, that's that type of thing. We have the Picador, which we haven't seen before at all, but you know, it's sort of like a pickup truck type thing with a car, but you know, with a sort of car body like an El Camino, that type of thing. We have another supercar type thing here, the Reaper, which is very much like an Aventador, which is pretty cool. Something that when I actually get back to playing GTA 5 will be something that I play, or will be something that I use. This one is the Roosevelt, which we've seen before in the GTA 5 mod before, which is, you know, pretty good. I mean, it's not that great actually. This is the Ruiner, which, I mean, kind of, you know, you can probably tell what kind of car that is, even if it's missing all the textures. We have another one, the Ruiner 2000. So, I mean, this one I think is a little bit quicker. Oh yeah, that one's a little bit quicker than the other one. This one is the Sabre GT, which we have looked at a Sabre before, but it wasn't in the GTA 5 mod. It was just in a different section. But I believe I might have showed off the license plate that it had. This one is the 770, which is another supercar type thing. I believe it's based on some sort of Ferrari. This one is the Slam Van, which is a, I'm not sure it's necessarily slammed, but it's a sort of classic truck. Maybe has a little bit of mods on it. Here we have the Space Docker, which we also looked at, and I really don't understand this car at all. But, you know, it's whatever. This one is the Stallion, which I believe was one that we looked at before. I don't necessarily remember where, but, you know, it's something that I think was in probably Vice City, if I want to say that. You know, it's kind of eh. We have the Stinger GT, which I believe is one that we haven't looked at, but it looks pretty cool. Sort of reminiscent of some sort of classic racers, but it maybe looks a little bit more modern than some of those cars. We have the sweet Volkswagen bus called the Surfer. Again, Volkswagen buses are are not actually that sweet. They're really stupid, but you know, whatever. Here we have, I believe, the T20, the Progen T20, which another supercar type thing. It looks very similar to a McLaren type thing, you know. It's another supercar. We have the last non-textured car, which is the Tampa. We had the Drift Tampa earlier, and this is the regular Tampa. And of course, it's in alphabetical order, so obviously that's why it wasn't next to the regular one. And then we have the X80, which is another one we saw earlier. A very futuristic car, looking a lot like the Ford GT, which we looked at a little earlier. You can see the sort of, yeah, it's sort of reminiscent of a modern, or of a 2017-ish Ford GT, but you know, not quite. And then we have, of course, the Z-Type, which is another car we looked at before in the GTA 5 stuff. Which it's I would say it's another popular car that some people like to use in GTA, but yeah. So that is it for all of GTA 5 and all of the SimpFizz stuff. So the best ones, there's quite a few of them. I mean, the T20, really, the Reaper, the Infernus, Jester, probably the Drift Tampa if I could actually drive it and if I could actually see it, Dominator, Banshee, not too bad, Cheetah, the Comet, it's kind of maybe in there. The Stinger GT is very, very cool, very good looking. 770, it's also not too bad. But yeah, so that is the end of quite a few things. Like I said, end of the GTA 5 section, end of the SimpFizz stuff, and also the end of me using this map for those. We do have to deal with all the weapons, which I would like to go through, but we're probably not going to do it on this map. So yeah, for basically the rest of the vehicles, including the Star Wars and Halo stuff, which we will eventually look at once we get through some of the other stuff. We also have this, but this is completely different. Okay, once we get through all that, or we'll probably be doing both of these on the map, on the next map that we go through. So, or the next map that I end up using, which I don't think I'll be recording that for a while. So hopefully I'll remember that. I should probably write it down, but whatever. That'll be the end for now. See you next.